So that brings us to 2.1, changes to the agenda and approval. We don't have any changes at this point in time. And that brings us to Section 3, recognitions, and I think Mr. Bryant has a special visitor he would like to recognize.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you, Madam Chair. I know this isn't on the agenda, but I was going to use it for my school board member minute, but because of the presentations that we have at the meeting, I appreciate you allowing me to take a few minutes. Over about 2 months ago, I believe it was, I was visiting Laurel Hill School, and I came across a student there by the name of Brianna Mott, who was doing some paintings, and she had some that were up at the school. And I was just so impressed, like with many of our students who have artistic talents, just what she did with some of those pictures. And so I was talking to her, and I believe her mother was her mother is a teacher at Laurel Hill School, was in the office along with Miss Martello. And Miss Martello has coined a phrase that I like to use, and I know the superintendent likes to use, is our school district is a district that runs from the beaches to the barn. So I asked Miss Mott, I was like, well, she was doing these paintings to do a fundraiser to help pay for senior trips and some other things that she's doing. And I said, Miss Martello has this phrase, beaches to the barn. Can you do a canvas painting with that theme? And Miss Mott, she was like, I can do that. And so a couple months pass, and I get a call from Miss Martello saying that Miss Mott has done this painting and would like me to come up and take a look at it. And when I got up there, wow, I was just blown away. And we did this, I asked Miss Mott to do this so we can present it to Mr. Chambers. But before we do that presentation, if Miss Mott, would you mind coming up? Miss Mott is a senior at Laurel Hill School, and I know she's a little nervous, but that's okay. So Miss Mott, if you don't mind coming up and just telling us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll bring your painting out so we can show the world your artistic capabilities there. So bring the microphone down just a little bit too.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Brianna Mott. I am a senior from Laurel Hill School. I'm also a part of multiple sports like cross country, cheerleading, softball. I've already been accepted into the honors program at UWF, so I will be attending there to
Awesome, that's
finish
great.
my double major in math and criminology. When I graduate this year from Laurel Hill, I will also be graduating with my AA from Northwest Florida. And I plan to go into either behavioral analysis or ESC staffing specialist.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
That's
Great.
wonderful.
Smart young
So-
lady,
Gosh,
very smart.
very impressive.
So as my 6 years on the school board, I've actually watched Miss Mott. She was in sixth grade when I first got on the board, and just watch her, because I had all the presentations that we have for academic awards. The Mott family is very well represented. She has a younger sister, and they were always up in the top of their class, and so it's just been amazing to watch her grow into the beautiful young lady that she is, and look forward to seeing all the great accomplishments she's going to do in life. But with that, Miss Mott, if it's okay, I'm going to bring this picture over and show everybody, and then we'll present it to Mr. Chambers to be able to put up in the school district somewhere, hopefully in his office, in the front office, but if I can get it out.
Yay. That's fabulous.
Can we all come down and
Yeah,
join the picture?
absolutely.
Now, she said, her mom said she struggled a little bit because she's trying to get all the schools in there, so she just kind of went to the high school level, but that's
I
good.
see a Viking, so you're good. All right, ready?
Just hand it to Mr. Chambers there. Thank you, Madam Chair, for yielding that time.
Absolutely. What a phenomenal thing to do and to present to the school district, to the superintendent. And I'll just say, hailing from Laurel Hill, that large things come out of small schools.
Yes.
Big dreams come to fruition there.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. So that moves us to 3.1, recognition of the 2023 Secondary K-12 Assistant Principal of the Year, Victoria Hurley, presented by the superintendent. And 3.2, recognition of the 2023 Secondary K-12 Principal of the Year, John Spolsky, presented by the superintendent. And 4, administrative personnel appointments, we have none for tonight. 5, public comment, we don't know that yet. 6, committee and staff reports for the workshop only. Quarterly report, service agreements under the $10,000 threshold for internal and budgetary funds, presented by Vince Wyndham. 6.2, Okaloosa County District School Board internal funds financial statements for fiscal year ended June 30, 2022, presented by Julie Perry. 6.3, Student Services Update, presented by Tracy Lamb, Student Services, and I think at this time we will have Mayor Whidden. So we're very excited to hear. Would you like to say something, Mr. Superintendent?
And thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say we just appreciate Mayor Whidden being here with us today. He spoke with us a few weeks ago in the city of Crestview, along with Okaloosa County. He led a symposium on fentanyl and the effects, and we know, we even talked a little bit today about how not only in Okaloosa, the state of Florida, but the nation, and the crisis that is there with fentanyl. So he shared a little bit of that symposium and wanted to come before the school board and share some thoughts that he has. So we absolutely appreciate you being here, Mayor.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I'll see if I can wing my way through this. All righty, good enough. Thank you. First of all, I do want to make a statement, and it is on the slide. Most of the slides were granted by Project Opioid. The individual came and spoke at the summit, allowed me to use these slides. The ones that don't look real professional are the ones that I did. All the other ones Andre did. I want to make sure you understand this is not a political presentation. We're not going to talk about where the fentanyl comes from, how it gets into the U.S. borders. That's not the issue here. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. First thing I want to do is make sure, I think all of you know who I am. If you don't, that's my problem. Because I should be out there and hopefully not just in Crestview, but across the whole county. I will tell you this. I got involved with this whole project because I attended a summit with the Florida League of Mayors by Andre Bailey, the founder and CEO of Project Opioid, and it really got my attention. That's why I asked him, excuse me, to come to Crestview. Interestingly enough, he had done a overdose summit in Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, Jacksonville, and Miami. So I called him and I said, why not Crestview? And he said, because I don't know where Crestview is. So I invited him there and he showed up. But joining me this morning at the podium is Dr. Karen Brown. She's a doctor of international psychology, retired Army combat medic, community activist, is the creator of the Crestview Youth Coalition. She's a commissioner on the Crestview Housing Authority. She's an organizer and leader of Crestview's Juneteenth celebration, a member of the Healthy Committee under OCHIP, which is Okaloosa County Health Improvement Partnership, a member of the newly formed Crestview Drug Task Force, and most importantly, a near and dear friend of mine. Some of these I'm going to skip because I want to make sure that I'm not taking any more of your time than I have to. The slide is up there right now. What is Project Opioid? It is a coalition of business, faith, and philanthropic leaders working together. And I want you to look at the little design on the right-hand side, my right-hand side anyway. And you see that in addition to government and business and criminal justice, healthcare, and nonprofits, we do have education. And that's why we wanted to come this morning and talk to you about how you could be involved in this scourge that's going through our states today. But Project Opioid focuses not just on what needs to be done, but who needs to do it and how we can get it done. Dr. Brown, you were with me at the summit, and and you saw how many people, how many different, would you comment on how many different groups were there?
So at the summit, we had students from Crestview High School. We had faith-based partners. We had business owners. We had doctors. We had behavioral health specialists. We had government officials, elected officials. We had members of the public. So it was a holistic set of people that were there talking about the fentanyl overdose and the epidemic that we're dealing with here in Florida, and specifically in the Northwest Florida Panhandle.
Let me just comment on the students. They were from Crestview High School. They were the SWAT team, students working against tobacco. And the neat thing is, when they were called upon to speak, this one lady who's not shy at all said, listen, let me tell y'all, if you tell us not to do something, we're not going to listen to you unless you tell us why. And I think that's something that we need to really sink in. They need the reason why, not just don't do it. You remember the old campaign, Nancy Reagan, don't do drugs? Well, if you don't know why not to do them, you're probably going to do them anyway. This is a picture of the gathering we had. Newspaper said we had 200 people there. They probably exaggerated a little bit. I think we only had 198. But nonetheless, it was a great showing. And it wasn't just Crestview. It was Okaloosa County. We had people from as far away as Leon County. It's truly Northwest Florida. So why is 2023 an important moment in our crisis? If you look at the oxycodone on the left-hand side there, and then you look at the ones in the middle, they look exactly the same. The problem is people order these online, and they're laced with fentanyl. Fentanyl, if you don't know it, here's what I tell people. One little drop will get you high. Another little drop will make you die. And so our people are playing Russian roulette when they're ordering drugs online, even doing something like what they consider maybe not important to them, maybe vaping a little weed. They're spraying fentanyl on the weed. So you could be vaping and not even knowing that you're ingesting something that could kill you. Look at the very bottom. 2 of every 5 pills with fentanyl contain a lethal dose. That's why I say our people are playing Russian roulette. They have no idea what they're taking. When I say people, I mean everybody. It doesn't have one group. You could be male, female, young, old, black, white. It doesn't make any difference. Anyone that's experimenting around with drugs is someone that's subject to possibly doing this. So where is Florida headed on the opioid crisis? If you see on the left, and I'm looking at, I don't know where you're all seeing it, but
There's a
Right,
monitor.
right.
okay, is it the
Right
same?
below. Yep.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
it's on the left then. That's our Attorney General, Ashley Moody. She couldn't make the summit, but she sent a video talking about what she's doing in the state of Florida to try to bring this under control. And then you see on the right-hand side, Governor DeSantis giving a news conference on how we're going to end addiction. He started a program called a CORE program, which we're going to examining to see how we can get some money. Look at the fatal drug overdoses in the state of Florida. First of all, over 100,000, I'll repeat that, over 100,000 people overdosed and died in the United States last year. 8,030 of them in the state of Florida. That equates to 22 people a day. 22 people a day are overdosing and dying from opioids, primarily because of the fentanyl. Okay, so one more. So where are we going? I'm speaking specifically from Crestview, but I'm becoming a cheerleader to spread this at least throughout the whole county. So what are we doing in Crestview? Our public information officer prepared the Overdose Summit presentation and the video and sent that to everybody in the Northwest Florida League of Cities. Actually, the executive director sent that out. Anyone that provided an email. We can do the same for you. If you want a copy of the presentation. Now, I'll warn you, it's 5 hours long, because we started at 9 in the morning. We actually started at 10 until 3. But our public information officer kind of truncated a little bit. You can get through it, or you can just kind of fast forward and get the highlights. The public information officer also created a billboard. The message is 22 Floridians a day overdose and die from opioids. And Signs for Hope, a brand new business in Crestview. I called them up and said, could you do me a favor? Could you put this on the billboard for people to see for 30 days? And he said, why only 30 days? He gave me 60 days. So if you drive on P.J. Adams or 85, there are 2 billboards out there that have that message. It'll get your attention, because it's going to have a toe tag on one of the bodies. It looks a little gross, but it's the facts. We're killing our people. The next day, the health communities under the Okaloosa County Health Improvement Partnership met and requested that we move a goal of overdose reduction from the Healthy Behaviors Committee 2 hours. That became a little bit controversial, and Dr. Brown, you were part of that. So why don't you talk about what went on in that meeting after the overdose summit?
So, as a psychologist and as a youth advocate, I believe that when we're talking about this fentanyl overdose, because one of the statistics that they gave us is that the majority of the people who are dying from fentanyl overdose, believe it or not, are 8th graders, middle schoolers. Why? Because they market this as candy. And these kids, they don't know any different. And so I felt that instead of it being in the behavioral health section, it should be in the community section, because it's a community issue. We can't just look at it as a behavioral health specialist problem, because they only see it when they come to them. But our law enforcement officers, our emergency responders, teachers, educators, pastors, business owners, they're seeing it in their places of business. So it has to be in a community directorship and not just in one silo. This needs to be something that everybody is aware of and gets involved with to assist this problem from continuing to happen.
Thank you. Because of that, and the very top you see, she suggested that we come to the school board to determine how we could reach out to the high school and middle school students, thus why we're here today. But what we did is, remember, we just said that we wanted to move that goal from one committee to another committee. Well, as you can imagine, that's a bit controversial, because every committee wants to own their own goals. So we had a meeting in Fort Walton Beach, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. We brought all the committee heads together, and we decided that we're all going to create the same goal under each committee, and then each committee chair would meet periodically to discuss how we're attacking the same problem. So it is a community problem, it is a behavior problem, it is a parent and child problem. So we're going to share that goal. The week before I left on vacation, we created we created a drug task force consisting of myself and Dr. Brown, that we represent government and civic leadership. We also brought in a business leader, the chair of the Crestview Chamber of Commerce. We brought in a representative from drug prevention, a representative from treatment, a representative from the faith community, a representative from the county health department, and a representative from the law enforcement, but somehow, not sure exactly what happened, but they got the wrong date or wrong time, but they'll be there next time. So the task force felt as though we should have someone from education and the local hospital. Now, the local hospital, this is great on them. I never contacted them. I don't know where they saw or read about the task force. They called me and said, can we join? So we're going to have the North Okaloosa Medical Center on there, as well as the county health department. And then I thought we did a pretty good job in hosting the summit. And I guess the founder of Project Opioid was so impressed with the amount of people we got there, he called and asked me to be a panelist on his next webinar. So I did that as I was driving in my car, hoping I didn't lose my connection. But I did that, and then I will continue to sign up for their webinars and comment as they ask me to do. And then the Okaloosa County Health Improvement Partnership asked me if I would also co-chair the Healthy Committee along with the police chief of Fort Walton Beach in order to keep me involved. So, this is why we're here today, asking you, the school district, to become involved. We suggest you designate a liaison to interact with the Healthy Communities Committee on OCHIP. Now, not another meeting, because you all have enough meetings. I'm very familiar with that. But you have, the chair is the Fort Walton Beach Police Chief, Bage. My recommendation is you establish a relationship with that police chief that he can keep in contact with you and let you know what's going on and feed it back to your school board. Secondly, I would ask that you designate an educator to my task force in Crestview. Obviously, someone either from Crestview High School or one of the two middle schools, possibly a counselor, because they're the ones that probably will see the students if there's any kind of an issue. And then, and this last one is a hard ask. I know it is, because those of you who don't know it, I retired as a teacher. And I know everybody wants the teacher's time. Everybody wants the student's time. I get it. You have a curriculum, and then people add this to the curriculum, add this meeting, and it just drives teachers crazy, doesn't it? Absolutely. I know it does. But I'm going to ask if you would consider that we could have a joint meeting with the students or the teachers, or both, where we could make a presentation like this. Because we have to reach down to the students. They're not hearing, if they're hearing it, they're not believing it. Maybe if they see some of the stats, they'll believe what's going on. Maybe if they understand some of the shortfalls of experimenting with drugs. So that's why we're here today. And then we would ask that possibly you consider going countywide. We don't want to keep it just in Crestview. I'm doing it because I was so moved to do it. My vision is that Fort Walton Beach should have a task force. Niceville should have a task force. We will take Laurel Hill and Baker under our umbrella in Crestview. Destin should have a task force, and then periodically everybody meet. So I really think it's a county-wide problem. And so as much as we can get out to the county, I appreciate it. If you have time, I'll put this video on. It's about 2 minutes. Do you have time or not, Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you.
We just heard from the president talking about the border and the deadly drug problem, opioid-related deaths in America topping more than 100,000 each year. In the U.S., it hit a record in 2021 with an average of 1 death every 5 minutes. But one group in Central Florida is on the front lines of the drug crisis, handing out life-saving medication. And this is not Narcan. News Nation's Brooke Schaefer had a chance to see them in action in a News Nation exclusive. She is live now in downtown Orlando. So, Brooke, what are they handing out?
Yeah, Nicole, they went around downtown Orlando handing out these boxes of Cloxado. It's like Narcan, but it's even more powerful. That is how critical the opioid crisis is here in Central Florida. Fentanyl is showing up in more drugs than ever before. The DEA calling fentanyl the deadliest threat to our country right now.
2022 saw record months for fentanyl busts across the country. The deadly drug is pouring in mostly from the Mexico border. Just weeks ago in Florida, a police officer suffered a medical emergency after reportedly coming in contact with fentanyl during a traffic stop.
She's breathing.
Overdose deaths in the U.S. are happening so frequently. Ashley Perkins got a text. Her friend died from an overdose just before our interview.
It was just, I'm just letting you know we lost another one. And that's it. We don't even talk about it anymore. Oh, what happened? What was it? We know what it is.
In Orlando, Florida, Project Opioid founder Andre Bailey suggests the fight against fentanyl isn't just at the Mexico border. It's in our nation's downtowns.
Wherever young people are, we know there's going to be drugs, and we know that we're going to lose lives every single day.
So if this is from the first of the year, and we're talking about 9 overdoses.
Right.
So that's an overdose a day since
Yes.
January 1.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
surprising to you?
Not at all.
Dennis Lima is the sheriff in Seminole County, about 30 minutes outside Orlando. The number of overdoses in his county went down slightly last year, but from record highs the year before.
Just last night, we had somebody using marijuana that potentially was laced with fentanyl.
Your officers, when they have their Narcan on them and a Friday night comes around, does it sort of feel like it's not an if, but when they're going to need to use that?
Oh, that they absolutely know within their first year of work, it is very likely that they will not only deploy Narcan, they will do it multiple times.
Project Opioid said overdose deaths in Florida are rising fastest in Central Florida. Fentanyl-caused deaths in Central Florida are up 172% since 2015, the group said.
This drug is unlike anything we've ever seen in American history. It's everywhere and in every drug on these streets and in every downtown across the United States.
There are tools to stop an opioid overdose.
It comes in a little nasal spray like so, and you can actually just go spray right up their nose.
This week, Project Opioid let News Nation join as they went to bars and restaurants in downtown Orlando, handing out boxes of Kloxxado, an overdose reversal spray that's twice as powerful as Narcan, a new necessary addition to their first aid kits.
We have a fire extinguisher in a fire. We want all the staff to know how to use the fire extinguisher, and this kind of goes right in line with that.
So has it gotten to the point where even Narcan isn't enough?
Listen, as I told you, there was the young lady that we were introduced to, 16 years old. She took what she thought was a Percocet and was overdosing in the spare bedroom at her parents' house, and they have to give her 4 Narcans to bring her back. Narcan is wonderful. The problem is the drugs are becoming more and more powerful.
Along with more powerful drugs are powerful fears of an opioid crisis that doesn't seem to be slowing down.
I don't want this to be around anymore when my children are born. Like, I know that sounds impossible, but I don't think it is.
So really, they told me that the next step in this opioid crisis is getting things like Narcan and Kloxxado into our hands, people like you and I, so that we know how to deal with an overdose if it happens right in front of us. Nicole?
Thank you for what?
I just want to add one last thing to that, because the question I always get is that if you were to administer a Narcan, or Kloxxado, to someone that wasn't overdosing, would you do any damage? And the answer is no. It will not do any damage. So if you make a misdiagnosis, it'll be okay. I would like to open it up to any questions you might have.
Have you seen any models around the state or even the nation that we might look at to they're having some success? You talked about, you know, requesting us to get out there. Have you seen some things that are working that we can go on?
I think, yeah, when I was at a webinar in Jacksonville, they have quite an anti-drug program going there. And I think the reason Andre Bailey, who was in that video, the reason he decided to come to Crestview is because he said he wanted to make sure he's getting the message out. This is not just a city problem. They're saying how desperate it is in Central Florida. In Crestview, both my police and fire carry Narcan with them all the time. They administer it probably, I won't say 1 a day, but probably 2 or 3 a week. And every one of those is a potential death. I talked to a deputy in Okaloosa County that administered Narcan to an individual in Destin, saved the individual. A week later, didn't get there in time and lost the individual. So people don't give up easily. I do want to say one thing that came out of the task force meeting last week is somebody asked me, if somebody is high and they come up to your cops for help, what are your cops going to do? And we all know the answer. They're going to arrest them. Okay? So the question is, could we develop a safe haven place where they could go and say, I need help, or maybe I'm overdosing, what the case may be. And so that's something we're going to tackle in the city of Crestview, is we need to look at, is there a place where people can go and get help instead of getting thrown in jail? You want to comment on that, Dr. Brown?
Well, I want to say this. As a psychologist, I believe in best practices. But sometimes we have to be the beginning. We have to start the process. And I want to say this, and this is very, very graphic, but it was shown to me, and it made a huge impact on how I see this problem. When we think about 22 children being killed in Uvalde, it made an impact, didn't it? If there were 22 children in one classroom here in Okaloosa County that died from a fentanyl overdose, how would we feel? We can't wait to watch somebody else's best practices. We have to create our own. And so what we're asking is, we got to talk to these kids. They need to know the why. I have teens. I have 6 kids. 2 of them are still in the Okaloosa County School District. And I talk to them every day. And I talk to their kids. I'm in all their business. But we have to get in there and be able to talk to these kids. Yes, the teachers are there, but they're there to educate, right? The curriculum. But if we are allowed to go in there and educate not just the students, but the educators and the administrators, let us take that burden and do that education piece. We're able to do it. We have the statistics, we have the time, we have the energy, and we have the passion.
I don't have a question. I just want to say, is it my turn? Sorry.
That's fine.
I just want to say thank you to both of you for taking this initiative, and you are so right. We have to reach the students. We are doing some different expulsions and so forth, and where this is, I mean, we haven't seen the fentanyl, but it's just, I'm afraid, a matter of time. When I watch the numbers, they're always staggering, and they continue an upward trend, not downward. But the key is to get in there with our students. And I've been making notes right here, and I want to get a copy of this, and I guess it will be on our webpage, that it is a countywide project, that your initiative, it's a countywide problem, and it needs to be a countywide project. I don't know if this is something that will come to a vote, but you definitely have my support in getting this out to our students. We just heard recently a student, and we've heard it, I think, a couple of times, that they're taking pills that they think are one thing, but they actually don't know what they are.
No.
It's staggering, it's alarming. So thank you both for getting that message out. We've got to hit the students. And when you mention 8th grade, yes, it's alarming.
And Madam Chair, Ms. Gardner, I certainly agree with everything you said, and appreciation to you for bringing this forward. I guess what I would request, and if my colleagues might support, and Superintendent, I suspect you know this is probably coming your way, if perhaps you and the appropriate staff might take a look at this and determine maybe the scope of this problem. And of course, what concerns me the greatest are the counterfeit substances. That's very, very concerning, particularly in light of your remarks.
Well, in spraying the wheat, I mean, I've never heard that before, but I mean, it's
right. It's frightening.
Every time I hear something, it's alarming. I mean,
So-
it's like you said, it's not a downward trend. Sorry.
Right, that's okay. So I'm wondering, Superintendent, if you might could do that with your staff and perhaps get back with us and provide some kind of way that we might participate and might help with this tragedy that's occurring in our society and unfortunately likely in our schools. Thank you.
And we might add too, I know that you started a series on things that impact our students in a negative way, for instance, the vaping, so maybe a PSA as well on this topic.
No, and I appreciate all the comments of the board. Thank you, Mayor Whidden, Dr. Brown, for being here. I think when we spoke a couple weeks ago about coming before the board, you did exactly what you promised, and I appreciate that, helping enlighten us even more on this topic. We have talked a little bit behind the scenes on this. I think it would fit nicely with our vaping campaign that's currently underway that we'll talk a little bit about later. But I will ask that under Ms. Lightbourne's department, with Ms. Lamb and Ms. Schroeder, that we'll set up a meeting and look at next steps as we go forward things that could be done during the second semester where practical, and then things where we can even ramp it up even more so for the 23-24 school year.
Thank you. Certainly a very timely and very worthwhile presentation. Thank you both, Mayor
Thank you,
Whidden
appreciate
and
it.
Dr. Brown.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. And that moves us into Section 7, Consent Agenda. 7.1 will be approval of the consent agenda. 7.2, approval of the minutes of the student disciplinary hearing of January 23rd, 2023, workshop meeting of January 23rd, 2023, and minutes of the regular meeting of January 23, 2023. 7.3, appropriation of District 2 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Elliott Point Elementary for 3 ClearTouch televisions in the amount of $17,499, presented by Marty Gardner. 7.4, appropriation of District 2 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Fort Walton Beach High School for portaphones for the football program in the amount of $6,965, presented by Marty Gardner. 7.5, appropriation of District 2 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Fort Walton Beach High School for new football stadium audio system in the amount of $4,975.02, presented by Marty Gardner. That was just your 2 cents, right, Marty? 7.6, appropriation of District 2 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Edwards Elementary School for archery equipment in the amount of $3,247, presented by Marty Gardner.
I do have a question about that audio system. I thought we were, as a district, working on stadiums in another package. You know, just in general, trying to upgrade. I thought it was like gyms and auditoriums and stadiums.
So I know we have looked at auditoriums.
Okay.
So I know we're going through that process right now with our auditorium upgrade, Mr. Horton. So I know we've looked at the lighting projects, but I'm not sure
But
about
not audio?
audio at
Okay.
not in this budget cycle, but our
Oh, okay.
auditoriums, absolutely, it's part of our
Just
our upgrades
Trying to
that
keep
we're
up with
looking
the
at.
list, because I remember us talking about stadiums. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? So 7.7 is appropriation of District 4 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Fort Walton Beach for a new football stadium audio system in the amount of $4,975.03, presented by Tim Bryant.
And I'd like to thank Mr. Bryant for going in halves on this. I'm sorry you did receive the 1 cent more than I did, but thank you, Mr. Bryant. And we do that often for each other.
Yes, we do.
In going and helping all of our schools.
Absolutely. 7.8, appropriation of District 5 School Board Member to Crestview High School for English Department Chromebooks in the amount of $5,441.02. 7.9, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 4-22, School Health Services, Student Illness, presented by Terry Schroeder. 7.10, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 04-24, Student Injuries, presented by Terry Schroeder. 7.11, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 04-25, administering medications to students, presented by Terry Schroeder. 7.12, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 11-20, tobacco products on school board property, presented by Lee Hale. 7.13, budget amendment number 4, fiscal year 2022-2023, presented by Julie Perry. 7.14, monthly financial statement for December 2022, presented by Julie Perry. 7.15, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Julie Perry. 7.16, school donations, presented by Julie Perry. 7.17, request to close the current Southside Primary School internal funds checking accounting at PNC Bank and open a new account at Synovus Bank, effective February 14th, 2023.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
may I ask a question regarding probably the next couple of requests. And Ms. Perry, I apologize, I didn't ask this ahead of time, but I'm sure you can give a good answer. But I noticed that we have two schools here that are switching from PNC, one's to Synovus, and then another is going from PNC to Hancock. Have we looked at maybe uniforming the entire district, being on in the same banking realm, or is there an advantage to schools being in different banks?
Usually, it's going to be whatever bank is going to be more convenient for the school.
Okay.
And these two are moving away from PNC Bank because of the fees that they were charging. But because of the wide geographical area, there's not particularly one good bank for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, and that answers the question. There's not necessarily a cost savings necessarily. It's just more of a convenience for that particular school if they go to, well, there is a
Well, in
cost,
this case,
there is
it's
a cost
savings.
saving, but more of a convenience if they go to Synovus versus if there's Hancock Whitney in the same
Right.
area.
Right, whatever's
Yeah.
going to be
Okay.
for them.
All right. Thank you.
A lot of times after a late ball game, having to make those night deposits, that makes a difference if
Sure.
you're asking someone to drive an hour away versus 5 minutes away from the school. Thank you, Ms. Perry. 7.18, request to close the current Kenwood Elementary School internal funds checking account at PNC Bank and open a new account at Hancock Whitney Bank effective February 14th, 2023, presented by Julie Perry. 7.19, tag-on bid purchase over $50,000, train, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.20, exempted purchase over $50,000, Beacon Educator, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.21, exempted purchase over $50,000, Waterford Technologies, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.22, sale and disposal of surplus property, presented by Steve Bolton. 7.23, application to the State of Florida for Safety and Security of School Buildings Grant, presented by Danny Dean. 7.24, amended contract and pricing change between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and the Panhandle Area Education Consortium, presented by Christy Corbin. 7.25, contract modification between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Northwest Florida State College for the 2023-2024 school year, presented by Jeff Palmer. And that moves us into Section 8, Superintendent's Human Resources Recommendations. 8.1, Employees on Administrative Leave, presented by Lee Hale. 8.2, Deferred Retirement Option Program, DROP, presented by Lee Hale. 8.3, Finance Department Restructure, presented by Julie Perry. 8.4, Employment Separations, presented by Lee Hale. 8.5, Personnel Recommendations, presented by Lee Hale. 8.6, Employee Transfers, presented by Lee Hale. 8.7, Employee Suspensions, presented by Lee Hale. 8.8, Employee Suspension, presented by Lee Hale. 8.9, Employee Suspension, presented by Lee Hale. 8.10, Employee Termination, presented by Lee Hale. 8.11, Reinstatement Reimbursement of Sick Leave due to Line of Duty Illness, Injury, or Medical Exam, presented by Lee Hale. 8.12, Leave Without Pay, presented by Lee Hale. Section 9, Discussion Agenda, nothing was moved there. Section 10, Construction Programs Owner Representatives Business. Tonight?
Yes, ma'am. We actually have a meeting right after this workshop.
Great. We'll look forward to hearing that report from you tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Section 11, Attorney's Business.
A couple of items, Madam Chair. As you see attached to your agenda, I have 2 retainer agreements to present to the board this evening for your consideration. The law firm of Bryant Miller Olive and attorney George Smith have been our COP finance type counsel for a number of years, and he has established his own practice in Tallahassee. So we are recommending that we continue to retain Mr. Smith as our bond counsel for those matters and continue retaining the Bryant Miller Olive firm as disclosure counsel for those COP transactions. So these will just get these retainer agreements in place so that down the road when we're ready to do a future COP financing, the finance team would be ready to go. Secondly, I do need to ask that we schedule an attorney-client meeting for discussion of pending litigation. This is in case number 322 CV 0881, which is pending in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. It is the Jewel Lab litigation, and we would ask that that meeting be scheduled for 8:00 a.m. on the 27th, which is prior to your next workshop. And Madam Chair, if you have no objections to that, then we would set that meeting and get the notices done.
I think that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody have a question for Mr. McGinnis? Okay. So that brings us down to section 12, superintendent's business. 2.1 is out-of-state student trip request, and 12.2, correspondence request and other matters for the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair and School Board. I do want to just share a few items with the board. As you know, on January 31st and February 10th, we had two great events. It was our Teacher of the Year event as well as our Ed Support Professional of the Year event. And I do want to thank Ms. Appleberg and her team, Mr. Strong and his team for helping set that up. As you know, a lot of work goes into establishing events like that, and I think they both went very well. We had on the instructional side, we had Mr. Royal Preston, who's the CTE teacher at OTC, who is the Teacher of the Year and is the Teacher of the Year for Okaloosa County, and a fine representative of the teachers of this county, and shows the emphasis on career and technical education as well. And then we had Ms. Shauna Christ on the Ed Support Professionals side, who is a ball of energy and passion, and she represents our Ed Support Professionals extremely well. But two great events, two great educators doing fantastic things for our school district. As you know, we established legislative priorities for our school district, and we've met with members of our local delegation and felt really good about those meetings. And we shared with them that this was a truncated list of items that we felt were important. And when you meet with them, you know, sometimes you might want to highlight just a few, which we did, but we also took the time to go through all of them and said, we'd love to see each and every one of these be addressed in legislation or at the Department of Education level just through their own procedures and policies. So we had great meetings with them, and I want to say right now there is a bill out there, Bill 202, and just want to give you a few highlights of that because I think you'll see some of Okaloosa's legislative priorities in there. So first of all, within that bill, which also there's a House Bill 1, which is the companion bill, but it proposes changing the temporary certificate from 3 years to 5 years, and that was one of our first priorities that we had on there. As you know, our temporary teachers come in, there's a lot that they have to do, just learning to be a teacher, let alone all the requirements. Part of that, we also talked about certification, and you all asked me to reach out to the governor's office, which we did as well. Mr. Horton and I on Friday had a meeting with the chief of staff on the education side with the governor's office, and certification is an area that they're going to look hard at because they understand that there needs to be criteria and a certain level of professionalism that's expected of teachers, but also understanding that there's a lot being placed on teachers. And in that conversation, we not only talked about our temporary certificate teachers, but we talked about all teachers as well. But it's nice to see some of this is moving. Also, there's a part in this bill which removes the 150% requirement for the minimum salary. And in essence, simplistically, we know that there's the compression in teacher salaries right now. So we're at about $49,000 for our teachers that are in their years 1 through 13, predominantly in that area. And in essence, that took what it was and what other teachers were, and it compressed. And we know that we want to absolutely start our new teachers off on a great salary because we want to bring them into this wonderful profession. But we also want to be able to look at our veteran teachers who have been with us for many, many years and honor that experience with appreciation and with they're working for a living as well. Mm-hmm. So we felt as though with this wording right now in there, if it were to pass, removing that 150% requirement, it would provide us a little bit more flexibility when we go to the table to negotiate salaries. Also, the advanced degree would be eligible for a supplement. As you remember, many years back, if you had an advanced degree, you had the ability to get additional income based on that advanced degree. And that was removed. We talked to them about the importance of that. People who go get a master's in curriculum instruction, it absolutely applies to them as a classroom teacher. So right now that's in there. Also, 2 years of effective or highly effective ratings meets the general knowledge requirement. So you become a new teacher, especially those temporary cert folks. Now they have to go pass multiple tests as well as get multiple certifications. And if you were a highly effective or effective teacher, that has the ability right now proposed in this bill to waive that. Also, 2 years of effective or highly effective meets mastery of professional preparation and education competence. Now we're looking to see exactly what more that actually means, but what I believe that it potentially could mean is there's a lot of certifications that teachers have to get within those. If it passed 5 years, and if you're effective or highly effective, it might meet some of those requirements. And then not necessarily on our priorities list, there's also a part in here that removes online course requirement for students. And we think the state probably gives a nod to kids are taking so many online courses now, it's not probably the same emphasis as it was before. If you remember, part of our legislative priorities also dealt with drop extension and giving the same rights, so to speak, that instructional staff had to our ed support staff and to our administrators. We've had several conversations with Senator Broxson and others, the governor's office. There seems to be traction for that, but we'll see what happens as they go through the rest of the legislative session. Every person that we've spoken to so far, in terms of our local delegates, they've responded very positively to what we've presented to them, and that they felt as though we brought stuff that's realistic, that could actually be done either through legislation or through action by the Florida Department of Education. Before I go on, any comments there? All right. Also, it was brought to my attention that Okaloosa ranked 3rd in the state on the niche report. So this wasn't something that I was necessarily going out looking for. It was brought to my attention. Every year, the niche group, which is out of Pittsburgh, they look at school districts across the nation, and they'll rank school districts. And they do this for families. There's certain, and it's based on multiple categories. So there's categories on academics, there's categories on teachers in terms of student-teacher ratio, there's categories in terms of clubs and activities, diversity in terms of free and reduced lunch population, college prep, sports, resources and facilities, food and administration. And the thing that made me proud on this ranking, being 3rd in the state of Florida behind St. John's and Sarasota, is it's kind of an overarching view of a school district, not just looking at one component, but looking at many different components of the school district. So it's always nice when you see something like this, and to be 3rd in terms of an overarching school district. I was proud to see that and wanted to report that to the board as well.
Can you send that to us, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll get on that. Also, it's the month of February, and some of you might be mentioning this as well, so I'll just say quickly, it's Black History Month, and in our schools, there's a lot of different activities that are happening from a district perspective, and then many activities that are happening just individually at schools as well. And I appreciate everyone who's putting these activities together and honoring this month. Also going to give a quick nod, because Dr. Kelly might mention this. It's Hope Week, and all I'll say right now is our Hope Squads across our school district are putting on many different activities. And on Thursday, we challenge everybody to wear yellow, but you might have more specific information on that, so I won't share too much. Catch the Wave has gone out. I know, Ms. Gardner, you've mentioned that many times, and so have many of you, but that's gone out to our staff as well as to parents. And then lastly, I do want to say, because it was mentioned at a previous meeting as well as today, So we still are very much in the vape campaign. There's a lot of planning that's going into this in our student services department. The letter to parents is about to go out, so they understand that this is about student safety. This is about making good choices. This is not about being punitive. This is about also having a deterrent. And what by that I mean, we are still going through the process of looking at vape detection devices. Mr. Horton and his crew have already piloted some at a particular school. We want to make sure that it works best with accuracy and notification to administration, so we're going through that process. We think that we're about to hone in on one specific product, so we'll be purchasing those and then getting them installed over the course of the second semester. But I think it's important that we do everything that we can do for the safety of our kids, and also educating our students and supporting our parents and helping our students make good choices. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. That was a lot. We appreciate that, especially that legislative update.
Thank you.
Good things happening. So that brings us down to section 13, school board members' announcements or requests for information. And I think I'll start with Mr. Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and you yielded my time earlier, so I will just have some more tonight, but thank you for allowing me to present early.
Good things. All right, Dr. White.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll do the same. I'll do my shout-outs at tonight's board meeting.
Okay, super. Ms. Gardner.
I will take both of their time because we have a lot coming out of Fort Walton Beach High School. Just want to announce that on Wednesday night, February 15th, at Fort Walton Beach High School, they will host their Quest Night. And this is an opportunity for parents to come out and to listen about and ask questions about Fort Walton Beach High School and understand graduation and how important that is, especially when their student enters high school. This will be for our upcoming 8th graders, 9th graders entering next year. The program will start at 6 p.m. in the gymnasium, and we'll have teachers and staff there to share this information. And I think when parents attend, they'll see exactly why Fort Walton Beach High School was one of the, is an A+ rated school. And again, that's going to be Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday night, 6 p.m. at the gym. Now listen to this. Boys soccer district winners. This past Saturday, they won the Sweet 16, and Wednesday night, they'll be playing the Elite 8, and that will be at Steve Riggs Stadium. That's here, 7 p.m. So they are advancing along very nicely, and I'm sure that will be right after this. You attend the 6 p.m. Quest Night. The Stars dance team, they participated in the 2023 NDA Citrus Regionals and won both of their divisions, Large Varsity Hip Hop and Large Varsity Game Day. They will be competing the Nationals in the first week of March, and we wish them the best of luck. Girls weightlifting, district champs. 6 girls qualified for state. Kendall Hewitt, Yasmin Lott, Remy Martin, Shamira Rudolph, and Nyla Head. And we'd like to wish them the best with what's coming up. Girls wrestling, they competed in the IBT, I had to look that up, International Bracketed Tournament for the district. And Remy Martin was a district runner-up. She's a sophomore, so we're looking forward to great things in her future. If you haven't caught this, the district winner is kind of the theme through here. And the Lady Viking basketball team were district winners also, so congratulations. The Lady Viking basketball team has always shown really well in our district. I'd like to welcome, I'd like to welcome our new head coach, Coach Bobby Clayton, I think, and his new assistants. And I think Coach Clayton will see that we not only take at Fort Walton Beach High School our academics serious, again, A+ school, but we also take our sports just as serious. And so we look forward to seeing what Coach Clayton and his assistants will be bringing to Fort Walton Beach High School. Tonight, we will be recognizing Mr. Sposky, principal at Fort Walton Beach High School, as the secondary K-12 Principal of the Year. And from everything I just read, I think you can see why Mr. Sposky is going to be recognized tonight. That's about Fort Walton Beach High School, but also a shout out to Bruner Middle School Spartans, boys and girls basketball county championship, and the Destin Middle School cheerleaders. They participated this past weekend. I think we had a lot of teams participate in this ESPN Worldwide of Sports. They placed 4th in the nation. And one last thing is that, and I mentioned it earlier, I'm so proud to see that it's not only our boys, but it's also our girls, both boys and girls. They are strong in Okaloosa County, but we also, I think the state maybe will recognize our programs for our boys and girls are also very strong. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
A lot.
All right, Ms. Evanchik.
Go Vikings, but
Go
let's talk
Vikings.
about the Gators now. Yeah.
We make it a little wall up right here. No, we support all teams.
We do.
Unless they play
Okay.
each other.
Except the Gators are offering some food. Tonight's Gator Night at Chick-fil-A Crestview, 5 to 8. You go there and mention Baker School, and some of the money goes to the school, which is great. So you get to eat, and the money goes to the school. So if you're going out and have dinner at Chick-fil-A Crestview tonight. I'm very excited to announce that 10 girls have qualified for the state girls weightlifting championship in Polk County coming this weekend. And according to Principal Martello, Allison Baggett will compete in not only the traditional but the Olympic categories. And she's been successful many times before. And if she wins, he made the comment that she will have more state champion rings than Coach Brunson. And that's quite a thing coming out of Baker. So we hope that she gets some more bling there. Last year we had 2 state winners, so that's exciting. All right, something for all of us I thought is really neat is for the first time on February, this Saturday, I think that's the 18th, we have a junior honor choir for grades 4 through 6. We've never had that. And so it's exciting to hear what those young people will be doing, and so that I'm liking that. Also, Wednesday night we have the science fair presentation over at Beachside Church from 6 to 8. And then great event for the 3rd year in a row, our Public Schools Foundation is sponsoring a college and career fair, and it's going to be on March 4th on Saturday. You know, I don't know about all of you, but I would have loved to have had this when I was in high school, to have that opportunity to speak with all these individuals out there in businesses and college representatives, just to see what's there and to get some information. It's free. Not only are we going to be feeding them breakfast and lunch, we're offering free transportation on buses throughout the district. So we've tried to think of everything we can to make this an easy thing for the students to show. So please mark your calendars March 4th. You do need to register your student if at all possible, which you can go on the district website or to any school, high school's website, and you'll be able to register there. Anything else, Mr. Horton, that I've missed on that? Good stuff. Okay. Mm-hmm. And to kind of end on a serious note, but one I'm going to bring up positive, is that tomorrow marks the 5th year since the Parkland shooting. And the reason I want to bring that up is, you know, about that time some of us were just getting on the board, and of course we remember seeing that video. I'll never forget that video. But what I'm so proud of is are the advances Okaloosa County School District has made in safety. When I was teaching most of the time, it wasn't that we didn't think safety was important, but we just assumed it was already handled. And of course we all know we can't assume that now. So I'm just very pleased at what our district has done under your leadership and with our board to do everything we can. I mean, there is no 100% guarantee in this world, but I think we have done and are continuing to do everything we can to make safety a priority. And I know we have an item on here on this agenda this time about safety and continuing that program. So it puts it all in perspective, and just want the public to know that we are continuing to try and find ways to keep our students and our employees safe. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'll just end with, first of all, it's good to see Eric Mitchell back there without his chair. And you're looking good, Eric. Glad to see you're making such good amends. And then I'll say, to add on to the cheer announcements, congratulations to the Niceville High School cheer team for again being state champs in the large division. And we just celebrated School Counselor Week, so we do appreciate their roles in student success. And you remember a while back, I asked all of you to go online and vote for Niceville High School as the scoreboard live champion for the Friday Night Lights, having the most vulnerable vibe on Friday nights. And guess what? They won. They were the winner for the best Friday night live vibe. So thank you for all contributing to that. I wanted to announce too, we all got the flyer about Ocean City Rights Fire Control District announcing its firefighter EMT scholarship opportunity. So if you know a senior who would be 18 by the end of August, be a resident of Okaloosa County, and to graduate this year, all they have to do is be able to pass an agility test and submit a professional resume to potentially earn that scholarship, and the deadline is the end of March. Again, I wanted to thank all people who donate to our schools. You just can't understand, unless you've been a school principal, how meaningful those donations are. Sometimes we get some pretty sizable donations to our schools, so I want all of our donors to know how much we appreciate them. Especially like to send another shout out to the local Moose Lodge members and directors, Chris Harriman and Brian Birdwell, for continuing to collect donations and give those back to our schools who have need of clearing out school lunches. So clearing the school lunch debt, I appreciate that. Mr. Superintendent mentioned Hope Week. That is this weekend, to wear yellow on Thursday for Hope Day. I think that's very important. And then lastly, I'd just like to say Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And going around the room, Patrick, Jordan, anybody else back there? I can't see. Grant, anybody from the head table here? And speaking of Hope Week, I'll just end with thanking Tracy Lamb and Terry Schroeder, your directors who have an ultimate hand in helping those schools who have Hope Squads. So thank you for that. And with that,
And section 14, to be sure we don't have any presentations.
Public comments when we get there tonight for the yellow card. Thank you. And then we may have public notices. And then that brings us to my favorite part, adjournment. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good job. See you, sir. All right.
Got her done. One more.
Good job,
one more
Madam
down.
All right. See you tonight. See you.
We got 11 o'clock Zoom, so see if there's anything else going on.
Thank y'all.
And again, thank you for
Happy Valentine's Day. Something for you to eat on the way to lunch. The guys got it for us. They really are stepping up, and yes, they need to right now you know, these parents that are making these comments, and Destin and I want the high school to be successful, but not to the expense of football meetings. And the comments are so nasty, and you don't need to criticize.
Yeah, but they're recruiting around the county too, because they tried to
know.
recruit some from Crestview High
Just
School.
wait till they bring their big sized bus with a big flashing billboard and
Why did that Crestview kid go to Destin and have to deal with that?
Because, well, this was baseball.
sports, so really, because they know they need to build up those teams.
But Tim Gillis is a good man. He basically told them, like, listen, you know, you can't be doing that. That's wrong.
They were sitting out at John Sposky's parking lot with these flashing signs.
Oh,
They
yeah, I
told
heard
them
about that.
I mean, they don't play by.
Anyway.
They just lost their guidance counselor because of it. So.
Well, and that's why it's so good that Fort Walton's doing really well. I mean, let's face it, academic okay, but people hear more about sports. Look at there. I mean, what you get.
You can
Aw,
share
you're
with your
so
wife, and I
sweet.
didn't write your name on it in case you want to give it to your wife, or you can just say you bought it for her.
I bet Tim's
Lamar,
got it handled.
you slipped out right
But,
there.
you know, Ms. Gardner,
My
you were
dad
saying
has
about all
always
the
said-
Fort Walton stuff. I was glad to see all of the things that they're being recognized sports-wise, because I'm like Ms. Benchek said, it's just, you know.
Well, Daddy always said it's the sports that bring and make a team, and whether it's high school, college, whatever.
Well,
and
it gets
that's
the
what-
attention, and then they start looking at other
And it brings
things.
the enthusiasm and the
Yes,
students and the
yes.
parents of Friday Night Live and all of that kind of stuff going on.
You know, as much as I like the competition, I don't want any of our schools.
Oh,
to
no, I
not
want
be.
every single one
Sure.
of them.
Absolutely.
You know,
want
and I
all
think
of
it
those.
needs to be said, and I didn't want to interject, but, and you mentioned the Chick-fil-A night. I don't know that parents and even community realize that these teams are not funded through the district. It is through our community support support, it's parents. And some of these kids, the girl I'm mentoring, she can't play softball because of financial reasons. She's at Destin High School. And I wanted to go in and so bad say how much is it going to be for her. But some of these kids are not, now I know that in our schools, I don't know if Destin High School will help pay. But, and it's not like, if it was Fort Walton or someplace, I would go in and say, okay, how much is this child?
Right.
What can I pay? But not there. But
Okay.
that could be mentioned.
All right, yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
You guys have a good one.
Still waiting on babies, right?
She's in labor.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's
So
every,
anytime now.
well, it's any time, but it's like 15 minutes, and it's been like that since Saturday for a couple of hours, then it stops. And then, so,
Bless her heart.
I'll be here tonight, but I can't go after that.
There you go.
My bags are basically packed.
That you or me? That was yours?
Mine.